There's something about biking. Drive the most raw, stripped out car you can, and yet it doesn't quite match the experience of riding an iron horse, completely exposed to everything, wind not just in your hair, but everywhere. On small bikes it's fun, and with a bit of power, it becomes truly exciting. Once I passed my A2 bike licence, I was opened up to a world of new bikes, with a limit now of 48 horsepower. Doesn't sound like much, but when you consider that's 5 or 6 times what I was experiencing on a 125, it sounds a lot more enticing. After a bit of research and googling, I landed on the Kawasaki ER5. Partly because it made exactly the amount of horsepower I was allowed to use, partly because that meant it didn't need restricting, and partly because I found one at the right price with some choice accessories. Buying it sight unseen online probably wasn't the best decision, and indeed when it broke down on me on my very first ride of the bike, I knew that our relationship was off to a rocky start. After the carbs were rebuilt and the bike was running properly though, I took it out for my first proper ride and was smitten within just a couple of miles. The same things that I loved about bikes, the open air feel, the exhilaration and the nimbleness, but now with a bit more sure-footed handling thanks to the extra weight, a massive shove in the guts when you were riding quickly, and much more relaxed cruising when you weren't. Over the next few months I rode the Kawasaki as much as I possibly could and just fell further and further in love with it. After a few visual modifications, I was pretty much certain that this was all I wanted from a bike, so if I didn't need to upgrade or buy another bike, I was keeping this one, and if it was gonna be a lifer, I wanted to make it my own. I strayed across some surface rust on the frame and initially just slapped some paint over it to tend to at a later date. But then it occurred to me, if this bike was going to be a lifer, why rush what could turn out to be something serious? So I undertook my biggest project yet, stripping the bike down to its bare bones to save it from corroding and then building it back up as what I would deem my dream bike. Weeks of stripping the bike down in the garage eventually took it down to a frame, and after meticulously grinding all the corrosion away, it was ready for a respray. With the groundwork made good, we could build the bike back up again. All the cosmetic elements got a good clean, a polish or a full respray, while all the mechanical elements got a looking at, an overhaul or a complete replacement. Learning new skills, trying new things, and gradually learning ever more about bikes, and this bike specifically. It wasn't easy, and there were times when it looked like the bike might never be finished, and sometimes when it felt like it didn't want to be finished. From blowing exhausts to rusty radiators, and when the freshly painted fuel tank turned out to have a small hole in it, which not only caused a fuel leak, but ate through the brand new paint job. But eventually we fixed all the problems, we sorted all the broken bits, and not to mention resealed and repainted the fuel tank. But what I've ultimately ended up with is what I would deem my dream bike build. And I'd say the results speak for themselves. This might not be to your taste. You might not like the colour, other mods I've made to the bike, and if you look closely there are a few details that need sorting. But that's the whole point of this build. I didn't want some perfect show queen to polish and never even look at, let alone ride. I wanted a bike that I could get on, have some fun with, but then get off of, take a photo of, and proudly say that it was mine. And in this completely rebuilt ER5, that's exactly what I've got. So after all this work, what's next for the Kawasaki? Well, it's time to suit up, fire the bike up, and ride.